We have moved a bill in the House twice. We should not have to move a third bill before the Senate gets off their ass and begins to do something.
What was that? Oh, my goodness. All right, some choice words from House Speaker John Boehner. He is echoing the frustration of lawmakers hoping for a last-minute agreement to avoid Friday's deep cuts. The president shot down the Republicans' offer to give the White House more flexibility when making the cuts. Now we see the president taking his message to the masses. He's back on the road. I don't know. I feel like maybe he should be making calls to Congress, brokering a deal. But, you know, I mean, what do I know? I'm just a TV news anchor. Today's Money Power panel is here with a lowdown on what we're going to see and feel. You might want to sit down for this one. I don't know. Nirmad Baravesh is with IHS. He's the chief economist. We also have Gretchen Hamel there from Public Notice and Christian Dorsey from the Economic Policy Institute. I feel like we're going to solve this problem, guys. I can feel it. We are. You know what, Gretchen, you spoke first. I'm going to go to you right there. What do you think? I mean, it's kind of a genius strategy, I think, I mean, maybe for once, on the part of the GOP to say, listen, we'll give you more flexibility with what you can cut, because the president has been out there talking about the little children who aren't going to get their measles shots. So if you say, you know what, you can give them your measles shots, but you have to find it somewhere else. It's a good idea, right? Or no?
It's a great idea. And I think Speaker Boehner was saying what every American is thinking right now when they hear every single week that we're about to hit another fiscal crisis. I think he was just telling everyone, he was just saying what everyone was already thinking. But when it comes to what they were proposing for the White House, they were going to give them the flexibility. They have the flexibility to make the choices. Only 3 cents on the dollar. You can choose whatever 3 cents you want to cut. And what the White House is saying is, oh, no, 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 no. We want to continue to play victim, and we want to be able to show how these cuts are going to hurt, and they're going to hurt bad, instead of actually picking some of the waste and getting rid of some of the waste.
Christian, what about that? Because they could just choose defense. I mean, if the White House wanted to, they could choose whatever program they want, or a little bit from everywhere, or they could safeguard. I mean, to be fair, they could safeguard things that are really important that scare people, like the vaccines, like the various things that we've heard about.
You preserve vaccines for kids, but you take away housing support for the homeless.
But you don't have to. You don't have to. That's the whole point. Those aren't the choices. Those aren't the choices.
Melissa, at some point, that does become part of the choices.
Not when it's 3 cents on the dollar.
It's not 3 cents on the dollar because they weren't opening up the entire federal budget to spending. It's still within the limited confines of what sequestration was all about.
Okay.
And that was the problem with it. It was a ridiculously false choice of cutting things that are not necessarily worthy of being cut, and that's the problem.
You know, Nirmad, Christian brings up a great point, because in fact one of the things that's listed that's on the side that can't be part of the sequestration cuts is President Obama's salary and his paycheck. That's one of the things that's been set aside as being safe. So he's right. Not everything is open. Maybe we should open everything, like the president's paycheck.
Well, you know, I think that's a bit of a distraction, frankly, Melissa. I mean, I would put it a little differently. I think the damage, even if we go off this, I mean, if we go into the sequester and stay there the whole year, in other words, the cuts $85 billion for the whole year. Is the economy strong enough that we can absorb this?
You think?
It's not going to kill the economy. Oh, absolutely.
Why? Why? What are the signs that make you think that we can afford this and we can deal with it?
You mentioned a couple of them. Housing's improving, prices up, sales up, confidence up, despite all this stuff about, you know, the cliff and the sequester. So the underlying dynamics in the economy are strong. We need to cut the deficit. We all agree on that. We got to do it at some point. We keep postponing the problem. At some point, we got to take the bitter pill. Now's probably as good a time as any.
I want you to be right about this, but what worries me is that why did GDP contract in the fourth quarter? If the economy is really strong enough to sustain this, why did it contract?
I think you know this, Melissa. It was a fluke. It's going to get revised up on Thursday from minus 0.1 to probably a plus 0.5, and we're headed to 2% growth in the first quarter of this year. Underlying growth in the U.S. right now is 2%. Okay. Even if we have the full sequester, it'll go to 1.5%.
Okay, Gretchen, are we strong enough to absorb? Wait, I'll let you go next, Christian. Gretchen, do you think we're strong enough to absorb this cut?
You know, I think short term we may feel a little bit of ramifications. 3 cents on the dollar, probably not. But in the long term, it has always shown that if you have a government that is spending less and letting the private sector spend more, you're going to have an economy that's thriving. And I think the last GDP showed that we are living on borrowed time and borrowed money. And the longer we put off this problem, the greater it's going to hurt our economy.
Christian, you disagree with that?
Well, I hope you heard Neerman at the end of his remarks. It's still going to cut growth by about 0.5 percentage point. It's a needlessly self-inflicted wound. Even though it's not going to choke us back into recession, it's still an unnecessary blow to the economy, which is still
fledgling. But we can't continue to spend money we don't have.
But see, here's the thing. The sequester doesn't actually reduce the deficit. The incumbent reductions in economic growth mean you're not doing anything to improve your deficit. So it's just ridiculous spending cuts. No sense. If you want to reduce the deficit, you have to do something more targeted.
Entitlements. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right, Christian. You made the salient point here is that all of this we're sweating over the sequester cuts, and really they do nothing. It's barely any cuts. You're right about that. We got to go, guys. You're a great panel. I hope you'll all come back together. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.
Time now for today's fuel gauge report.